Seriously though, how could you have the baby of a guy who divorced you? Oh, maybe you couldn't forget about me. Did you think that keeping the baby might bring me back to you? Really, is that it?
He was being beyond ridiculous. Looking back on it now, it was really a good decision to break up with him. If I had stayed with such a moron, I would never have found the happiness I have now. Today, I would like to talk about my unforgettable stained past and my rebellion. My name is Dawn. I am a 53-year-old housewife who takes pleasure in doing chores in a leisurely manner while watching the news in the morning. I was 38 when it all started. I was living an ordinary life with my husband, Matt, but I started to feel a bit of uneasiness in our marriage. Whenever I spoke to him, he would only respond with, "Oh yeah? And so?" I felt he was strangely overbearing or indifferent to me. When I tried to continue the conversation, he would say, "I'm busy." He cut me off. I was treated roughly, or rather unkindly. He wasn't always like that, but more of a talker. If he had a chance, he came up with jokes and tried to make me laugh. I had no idea what caused his transformation. It was so abrupt that I thought I had done something wrong, but nothing came to mind. Then one day, I found a faint smudge of lipstick on the back of the shirt that he had left me to wash. He was wearing it on the day he said he had to work late. His office was male-dominated. I didn't think that there was a male colleague who put lipstick on and leaned on his back. If there was, it was scary to imagine. Maybe it was a woman. The thought naturally came up in my mind. But a single smudge of lipstick wasn't hard evidence. He could say someone tripped and bumped into him or any other excuses. I thought I would have to wait and get some more evidence. I carefully checked his behavior to see if there was anything unusual. Ironically, just by being a little more aware, I found a raft of evidence of cheating. For example, when we were in bed at night, he always needed to go to the bathroom around 2 a.m. I had never suspected it before, but it seemed that he was on the phone with a woman at that time. I once saw a long hair coming out of the inside of his suit. I also found a trace of what appeared to be lipstick on his handkerchief after a close inspection. The final nail in the coffin was when I borrowed his car for the first time in a while. It was a lip balm. Unless he was a fan of colored lip balm, I thought it was going to be the most exculpatory evidence ever. Married for 10 years. I felt the frustration of losing him to some random woman and the despair of not wanting to be alone. My love for him started pouring out. I wondered if there was really no way to start over. Was there anything I could do to make him come back to me? Was there a way to make him fall in love with me again? Just as I was twisting my brain, my suspicion of pregnancy came to light. I thought the timing was a gift from God. We had no children. The cause of his infidelity was that we were stuck in a rut. If so, the pregnancy might have been a chance for him to change. I gave him the news with hope. However, he said, "No way, give me a break. What a pain in the ass. Let's divorce." I couldn't believe my ears. Well, now that I think about it, I guess I was too naive. It was rare that a husband who was cheating on his wife straightened up and became faithful all of a sudden. It only happened in movies. Despite all that, I believed at the time that we still had a chance. We had known each other for a long time after all. "How dare you? It's your baby!" "I'm sure the baby is better off without a father like me. And you already know, don't you?" My heart skipped a beat when I saw the smirk on his face.
I'm having an affair.
I had planned to use the pregnancy as an opportunity to reconcile our relationship without acknowledging his adultery. I felt as if I had been pushed off a cliff. I thought that if the affair came to light, the marriage would become strained and he would not come back. It was another naivete on my part.
I wanted you to find out, so I did everything I could to leave evidence, but he didn't say anything at all. I'm getting tired of it.
What do you mean?
I've been waiting for you to tell me. No way you're cheating on me. I want a divorce. Don't make it harder on me.
You're joking, right?
I won't go through all this trouble just for a joke. I have a cute 24-year-old girlfriend right now. I have no use for a 38-year-old who is going to get that from pregnancy, he continued to say. I can imagine you becoming like Eric Cartman.
He laughed hard by himself. It wasn't funny at all.
Here, I'll pay you alimony or whatever you want. Sign them.
He presented me with the divorce papers. I cried for 3 days and 3 nights. When I noticed that he stopped coming home, I finally made up my mind and went to see an attorney. 5 years had passed since then. I was afraid of being alone at an old age, but I fortunately remarried my childhood friend, Larry, who was also divorced. We were living modestly with our child. Larry's ex-wife had been unfaithful, and he went through a hard divorce as well. Because we had been through similar pain, I felt very comfortable being with him. He took me out to a fancy restaurant for our wedding anniversary and gave me a nice gift for my birthday every year. He made sure that I knew he loved me. I prayed that those happy days would go on forever and welcomed another wedding anniversary. It was supposed to be a pleasant dinner at the usual upscale restaurant.
Oh my God, it's Dawn.
It was Matt, who frowned when he saw me. Why are you here? I couldn't help but show my dismay. What a tragedy. I happened to run into him as he came out of the restroom.
I am entertaining my client. I am busy. Unlike you, just hanging around carefree.
He suddenly looked behind me and came up closer to me.
Oh, so you had my baby? That's disgusting.
He pulled up the boy's hand and said something outrageous while staring at him.
Seriously though, how could you have the baby of a guy who divorced you? Oh, maybe you couldn't forget about me. Did you think that keeping the baby might bring me back to you? Really, is that it?
He smirked while he pulled the boy's hand and spun him around on the spot. The boy's face gradually became red and scrunched up. "Ah!" he wailed. "I am being kidnapped."
I'm your daddy, little boy. Mommy's right there. He's stupid just like you, isn't he?
At that moment, a man around 6'3" tall appeared from behind and grabbed Matt's arm tightly.
The boy is mine.
Huh? Matt's confused expression almost made me laugh.
Is this your new husband?
I kept my mouth shut.
I don't know what you're talking about, but you don't think you're going to get away easily after making my son cry, do you?
The tall man glared at Matt. Heavily tattooed arms were on display from his rolled-up sleeves. When Matt noticed them, he instantly became pale.
No, hey, Dawn, stop your husband. She's not my wife.
What? Matt was confused again and looked back and forth between me, the man, and the crying boy.
Then, who is this boy?
Before I knew it, Matt had his arms held behind his back by the man.
He's a suspicious man who repeats crazy things. Someone get the staff. There is a man here who is harming my child.
The man's shout caused a commotion in the restaurant. I was thinking my precious wedding anniversary was becoming eventful and smiled. It became better than I expected by a coincidence. "Hey, this is the man. I saw him grab this little boy by the arm." Matt was taken aback when I pointed him to the staff.
Hey, wait, Dawn, what are you doing? Seriously, I don't understand what's going on.
He was yelling frantically. "I am not his wife, and the boy is not mine, much less yours."
"But he was standing right behind you."
"You were standing in the doorway of the restroom. I guess he couldn't get in. He was just following his dad, and you interrupted him. I know you wanted to make fun of me, but you can't be so quick to judge. Why don't you learn to observe a bit more?"
"Shut up! I don't need your lecture."
"Well, I guess my kindness won't reach a prowler."
"I'm not a prowler."
You grabbed a strange boy and told him that you were his daddy. How is that not suspicious in any way?"
"I am telling you."
"What's more, you said to him that I was his mom. Do you still think that we're together?" When I smirked at him, his face turned bright red, and he shouted,
"How dare you!"
The man at his side put more force into his restraining hand as Matt's voice got louder.
"Dude, let me go. I'm innocent."
"Innocent of what? You made my little boy cry, didn't you?"
"It was a misunderstanding."
I immediately chimed in. "You selfishly misunderstood and raised your hand on someone's son, didn't you?" Matt called me a bitch as he glared at me. "Oh no, I'm being glared at by a prowler. I'm scared." I said it in a girly, pretentious way, though it was emotionless. It seemed to have hit a nerve in a way I hoped for. Matt violently tried to break free of the man's restraints. "You even thought that I was hoping to get back together with you. Oh, maybe you couldn't get over me." I dared to mention what he said to me earlier. As expected, he got angrier, and the man sensed the danger. He rolled Matt straight to the floor and sat on his back.
"If you think you can break my restraints, you are mistaken."
The man may have thought it was a mild threat, but combined with his heavy tattoos, it was seriously scary. I was sure Matt must have thought that it was the day he might meet his creator.
"Dawn, tell him it was just a misunderstanding."
Pulling up the arms of stranger's kid was anything but misunderstanding, right?
"I thought he was my kid."
I couldn't contain my laughter anymore when he mumbled like a child, half crying. "You never recognized the baby or paid child support, and you say the child is yours? Have I ever asked you for recognition or child support after we divorced?"
"No, even if you did, I wouldn't have agreed. You knew that too. That's why you didn't ask me, right?"
"Are you that stupid? I'm not a fool when I have a child to take care of. I'm gonna hunt you down until you pay."
"But then, why didn't you?"
The pregnancy test was wrong. When I went to the doctor, it turned out I wasn't pregnant. It helped me to sign the divorce papers. Those 3 days when the divorce was mentioned and he stopped coming home, I did spend a lot of time crying. I knew I couldn't go through the divorce in such an unexplained state with our baby, so I went to an obstetrician. Even if we were to get divorced, alimony, child support, and future living expenses were all on my mind, and I needed to sort these things out. If the child would benefit more from staying married, I was willing to endure it. The doctor saw no sign of pregnancy, and instead, a tumor was found in my ovary. When I was admitted for surgery, the woman whom I shared the hospital room with was the mother of my current husband. I had known him since we were little, so I knew his parents too. When he came to visit her, we became close again. At one point, I thought that my pregnancy was a gift from God and it could save my marriage. On the contrary, it brought me a partner who assured me that it was the right decision to leave Matt. I was also able to detect the disease early. Despite having one of my ovaries removed, I even had a child with him. It may have seemed like adding salt to injury, but in fact, it was filled with good fortune. When I finished telling Matt all that, he turned pale and murmured, "No way, I was dumped by my girlfriend." Needless to say, I laughed at him. Well, I didn't think that young girls wanted to deal with such a middle-aged man who was getting older and older. At that moment, police officers showed up. Apparently, the staff had called them. Matt received a stern warning from the police. The misunderstanding was cleared, and he sincerely apologized to the boy's family. The incident was solved without a criminal charge against him. The police seemed to really scare him to the point of changing his attitude. I received an apology from him as well. He didn't know where I lived, so he went to my parents and showed his remorse. He apparently realized that he was wrong for leaving me in the worst possible way. He was getting older, was dumped by his girlfriend, and no one wanted to be with him anymore. He was completely broken down by the whole affair and felt lonely with no one to comfort him. Well, I didn't care if he apologized. I continued to ignore him. If I hadn't bumped into him there, I never really thought of him anyway. Incidentally, Larry noticed that I was gone for a while and came to check on me that day. He thought that it may have been the first and the last chance for me to get back at Matt. He dared to watch the situation from shadows. Of course, I was going to jump out if anything happened, but the man who was holding him down was so strong. He said he went to school in New Zealand and was a rugby captain. Wow, there was no place for me then. He was so scary. I thought he was a member of Hell's Angels. He started chuckling, which made me laugh too. Normally, I would have thought he wasn't manly, but he didn't need to be involved in my ex-marriage matter. It was something I should have solved by myself. I realized that I didn't have the strength at the time of the divorce. My actions were to divorce Matt as he wished and to receive market-rate alimony from him. I knew that reality didn't always work out like in movies. There was no way I was going to demand an unbelievable amount, and I also had lost the power to resist. I was finally able to speak up to Matt with unwavering determination. I thought that I became stronger in a real sense. I could really focus on Larry and my child after that. Strangely, our wedding anniversary that year marked a new beginning for me. Now, Larry is a freelance architect. I have quit my part-time job, and I'm enjoying being a relaxed housewife with a doubled salary. When I tell my somewhat rebellious pubescent daughter to do something, she complains, but when I don't, she quietly helps me. Larry and I keep it a secret that she has an irresistible teenage rebellion quality. Since I gave birth at an advanced age, I have only one child. The three of us and 2 dogs are enough to make a cheerful house, though. Matt and I had a hard time conceiving, but with Larry, I was able to get pregnant, even with only 1 ovary. I guess this is a fate in a sense, the dream of marrying my own special person, which I secretly longed for when I was a child. I never thought I would be able to fulfill it through a second marriage. It's almost like a fairy tale. I cherish the happy days that come as a matter of course, but never take them for granted.
My husband handed me the divorce papers. When I looked at the back of it, I rushed to call the police.
Don't be ridiculous. That is unacceptable. You know what? I have no use for you anymore. You're nothing to me from right this second. I am not giving my money to someone who's useless like you. I'm divorcing you. Take this and get out. I understand. I have no objection to leaving. Besides, we're just wasting our time talking to each other like this. Let's talk it over with our lawyers at a later date. And I will proceed with the divorce immediately. I left the house with the luggage I had prepared in advance. My name is Bridget. I am a mother of 2 children. The younger one has just graduated from university and started working. I am now looking for a fresh start in my life. If we were a happy couple, we might think of spending our older age together in peace. But I have no intention of doing so, because my relationship with my husband Stephen has already cooled off. But that doesn't mean that our life was loveless from the start. I adored Stephen and respected him for his intelligence. I dreamed of a bright future with him for the rest of my life. But after 35 years of marriage, I learned to know his true intention. My husband saw me only as a tool to make his company get bigger. He started his own company in his lifetime. When we met, his business was already on the right track. From the outside, it would have seemed like the perfect marriage. 10 years into our marriage, our first son, Joshua, was born. 2 years later, our second son, Liam, was born. By the time, my husband had shown his true colors. 2 boys! Bridget, well done. Now my company is safe. I don't care which son. The better one can take over my business in the future. At first, I thought he was joking as he laughed and talked. But as soon as the children started to understand his words, he demands his sons that they have to take over his company when they grow up. Parents should not take over their children's lives. That should not be allowed to happen. Stephen, children have their own lives. So please don't make it sound like taking over the company is the only thing that matters in their lives. You don't understand anything, do you? It's natural for parents to make path for their children to follow. Of course, I don't disagree with that. But it's up to them to decide which path they want to take. All we have to do as parents are pushing them along. Then my husband stared at me and scoffed. Do you know why I chose you to marry me? What do you mean? Because you were the granddaughter of a chairman of a conglomerate bank. Financial connections are essential for a company to grow. Yes, of course. I'm aware of that. We married in an arranged marriage. I had understood very well that you saw some benefits in me. Well, not only that, you are by far the most brilliant woman I've ever met. I wanted to leave a good gene pool. If I'm going to have a wife, it's got to be a smartest one. If both parents have good genes, the odds are good that their children will have good genes too. So I can pass my company on to the best and brightest. Is that what you really want? Of course. What other reason did I marry you? 2 years after my second son was born, I was very shocked to hear my husband said that. Of course, I was attracted to him because of his excellence, but that wasn't the only reason. Starting a company from the ground up takes a lot of hard work and determination. I respected him for the hard work he had put it in to achieve his goals. But the man in front of me saw me as one of the necessary ingredients to leave a good gene pool. My mind went dark all at once, but I couldn't stay in the dark. I have 2 children. I must raise them to be full-fledged adults. From then on, I worked hard to raise my children. It was complicated, but my husband was right. My children's intelligence was outstanding from an early age. Fortunately, my husband and I have aligned our interests. My husband wants to raise an outstanding successor to take over the company. I want to focus on my children's education. We each have our own agendas, but what it requires is the cost of education. My husband invested money in our children's education as if it were an upfront investment. As a result, they have grown up to be the excellent university students that my husband wants them to be.
Mom, will I work for my father's company when I grow up?
My oldest son, who was in the early grades of elementary school at the time, once asked me such a question.
Joshua, it is your life. Mommy wants you to do what you want to do when you grow up. As long as you can live without causing trouble for others, I would be happy with any work you want to do. Your life is yours. Remember that. Okay, honey? Okay. Then, Mommy, I can tell you my secret. I want to be... My eldest son has had a dream since he was a little boy, but he never talked about them in front of my husband. He was a smart boy, so I guess he knew his father would disapprove. And so, he fulfilled his dream. He passed the bar exam and became a lawyer after graduating from university. In fact, I used to stand on court as a lawyer myself. From an early age, my eldest son was interested in my work. He is now very busy, having set up his firm with a classmate. My husband at the time was furious with me and Joshua.
You never told me you were going to be a lawyer. Why didn't you join my company? Did you have any idea how much I've spent on you? Quit the damn firm and join my company.
My husband was very upset. He just paid the money and left me to take care of our children's education and upbringings. He was so entrenched in his mindset that his children should be in his company. It's no wonder my husband can't understand what they want, because he never interacts with them.
Father, are you sure you want me to stop being a lawyer? If I can make a good record as a lawyer, there will come a time in future when I can help your company, won't they? Besides, you are paying a lot of money for legal counsel now. Even if I eventually join your company, I think it's better for me to be a strong lawyer now, so I can contribute in the future.
My husband's eyes lit up at this statement. However, my son has no intention of joining my husband's company. My husband seemed to look forward to his eldest son's joining the company, and he backed down easily at this time. I'm sure he was thinking of the benefits in the future. But there is another more important reason. This is the existence of our second son, Liam. He, too, has a different direction of excellence than his older brother. My husband thought that Liam, who would graduate from university in 2 years, would be in good hands if we joined the company. Because of his eldest son, my husband reminded his second son to make sure he would join his company. He was relieved when Liam said he understood. My second son, Liam, was a child with a strong personality. Even when he entered kindergarten, he did not join in the circle of other kids and did what he liked. But that doesn't mean he's uncooperative. He only spends his free time during recess. In class, he was always in harmony with his peers. Liam, honey, what are you doing?
When I picked him up from kindergarten, I found my second son on the playground. He was standing still with his forehead against a tree.
Mom, I'm a tree now. That's why I don't understand human language.
Oh, I see. But Mr. Tree, it's time to go home now. Can you get ready for that?
Okay.
He must have been a peculiar child to everyone around him. My second son was the type to do whatever he wanted to do. He was interested in plants and other living things from a very young age. He put a lot of effort into learning Chinese and Spanish because he wanted to read reports from overseas. After graduating from high school, our second son went to a university abroad to accumulate expertise. My husband was happy to see him. A multilingual business owner will take my company to the next level. That's what he thought. However, upon graduating from overseas university, Liam joined a research institute in that country. Of course, my husband was not happy about this. You! That's not what you promised. Come back as soon as possible. He kept calling and nagging Liam. Liam, when are you coming back? Soon, I guess. Enough. Listen to me and come back right now. I'll come home when I'm tired of studying. Knock it off, Liam. My husband was yelling at him in a terrible rage. And this wasn't the only reason for his outburst of anger. His company has been in financial trouble for a while now. He never talks to me about it, but my eldest son told me about it. I guess that's why he couldn't forgive his second son for betraying him. Frankly, I don't care what happens to my husband's company now that I've finished raising my children. Since our birth of our second son, my husband and I have barely spoken to each other. Still, I am grateful to my husband for his financial support that enabled me to raise my two children. But now that they have left the nest, there is no point in being with him anymore. I have been waiting for the right moment to divorce my husband. I've told my children my true intentions. They both respected my decision. Now I have nothing left to regret. And the timing came surprisingly quickly. Bridget, I need to talk to you. Take a seat. Yes? There is a clear file on the table. It's an unfortunate way for our children to leave us. I thank you for your 35 years of hard work. Thank you too for financing their education. So, let's take a moment to consider the rest of our lives, shall we? Yes, let's. Well, here, I've prepared the divorce papers. Of course, I'm not going to leave you penniless. I'm going to give you $30,000 for immediate expenses. What did you say? You can't buy back 35 years of my life for $30,000? What? You've had a good life so far. Good life? What are you talking about? Every time you open your mouth, you urge your children to take over the company. They have their own lives. Shut up. I'm the one paying them, so it's only natural. That's not true. It is natural for parents to spend as much money as they can on their children. But it's not for them to follow the path that parents have set for them. It is for them to live a better future. I've never felt good to live with you because you think differently. Don't give me that bullshit. You're just grateful to get paid. Well, I'd like a properly calculated compensation. You are a business owner, remember? You are asking for $30,000 for my share of the property? That's insane. You've spent money on our sons, sure, but I've taken care of everything for you and them. Whose support has allowed you to concentrate on your work so far without any problems? I believe that when we have fulfilled our obligations to each other, our property should be divided equally. Quit your nonsense. I'm not paying. Common property is to be divided exactly into. That's the law. I agree with the divorce. I have nothing to say about it. But I like to see the property calculated by the law. My husband's face turns red and he keeps yelling at me. Don't be ridiculous. That is unacceptable. You know what? I have no use for you anymore. You are nothing to me from right this second. I'm not giving my money to someone who's useless like you. I'm divorcing you. Take this and get out. I understand. I have no objection to leaving. Besides, we're just wasting our time talking to each other like this. Let's talk it over with our lawyer at a later date. I'll proceed with the divorce papers. I took the luggage I had prepared and left the house. I went to my eldest son's house, which is not far from my house. I see. So, Dad initiated the divorce. Well, yeah. Divorce is definitely in the cards. I lifted up the divorce papers my husband had presented to me. And then, I look at the back of the paper, and there is a sticky note. What's this? Oh, isn't this? I called Joshua and showed it to him immediately. I knew it. The rumors were true. Mom, call the police. What? Why? Well, in this case, it should be the IRS and the prospector's office. Don't worry, I'll call them myself. Mom, you call the police. It's important to leave a record that you have made a call. Oh, okay, you're right. And 2 weeks later, my husband was arrested for fraud. He had bilked a bank out of hundreds of millions of dollars under the guise of a new business venture. Then, fearing the fraud would come to light, he ordered his staff to destroy the documents. The note was stuck to the back of the divorce papers. To me, he was a sinner, not a member of my family. The divorce was finalized, and it's been a while. Of course, my ex-husband's company went bankrupt. He sold off all his assets to pay back the money he had swindled from the bank. But he still couldn't repay the entire amount. I was worried about the effect on my eldest son because of his father's prison sentence. On the contrary, he became a hero for accusing his father. As for me, I was not paid my share from the penniless convicts. To be honest, it was too big a deal for me to even think about it. My first and foremost priority was to refund the money to the fraud victims. I am not in the courtroom anymore, but I am helping my eldest son's firm as an advisor. I'm very grateful to be able to work again. 3 years later, my ex-husband was released from prison. My children reached out to him without hesitation. My second son returned home too, and they went to pick their father up on the day of his release from prison. They said their father said, "Thank you." The sons offered assistance to the ex-husband, which he apparently turned down. I am grateful to him for showing his fatherly spirit at the end. I hear he's now working to pay off his debts in his old age. My ex-husband's life and mine will never intersect. I hope this incident will give him a chance to rethink his life. I received a letter from him once through my eldest son, but I pushed it back without reading it.
My eldest son said I should read it, as if he knew what it said. But I refused. Both my sons have grown up to be really honest, decent men. So I understand that my eldest son handed the letter to me out of the kindness of his heart. I'm sure what's inside the letter was an apology for our marriage, but I won't allow it. My ex-husband will be comforted by the fact that he has apologized. I'm not going to make it that easy for him. This is my little revenge. It's a small price to pay for 35 years of my life. I hope to live the rest of my life cleanly and righteously. Thank you for watching till the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.
My husband called my mother poor and useless while she was in critical condition. After my mother's death, my husband found out her secret.
My name is Sylvia. I am a 38-year-old housewife, working part-time. My only daughter, Melody, graduated from college last year and moved out. So now, I live with my 50-year-old husband, Victor. Now that I've finished raising Melody, I have a little more time on my hands these days. But then, my life took an unexpected turn. My husband and I met on a blind date. We liked each other from the first day. Things went quickly and we got married. Soon, we were blessed with a daughter. Even though it was my first time raising a child, I was determined to do my best for her. I quit my job at the same time as her birth and became a stay-at-home mom. I did all the housework and childcare by myself. My husband was not at all supportive. If he finished work early, he would go out for drinking, and on his days off, he would go out for fun. If not, he just sits around in his room doing nothing. And yet, he had this kind of attitude towards me. Housewives are easy, you know. You can enjoy yourself and live for free. He's so out of touch with the times. I've thought about divorcing him, of course. But I didn't want to divorce him just because he was uncooperative and had a nasty tongue. Besides, it would be better for my daughter if both parents were together. So I changed my point of view a little. I would raise my daughter on my own without relying on my husband. He's only good for bringing in a paycheck. And that worked for a while. But when my daughter started middle school, my husband started taking money out of the house. I have to pay for company equipment. I have to pay for business entertainment. Under the guise of that, he often took a large amount of money from me. Naturally, the family finances were strained. So I started working part-time to help out. Still, my husband complains to me about anything. Don't try to talk to me about work. You're just a part-timer. What kind of work can a woman do? It's just as easy as playing. He said things like this to me. He probably has no respect for women in general. I didn't outwardly oppose it, but I was going to pay him back someday. Late one winter night, the house phone rang. I picked up the phone to find it was my uncle, my mother's brother. He told me that my mother had been rushed to the hospital by ambulance and was in critical condition. He gave me the name of the hospital, and I got ready to go. I woke up my sleeping husband. I begged my reluctant husband to get a car, and we drove to the hospital. My mother had been living alone since my father passed away a few years before. My father was a big, strong, and reliable man. I loved my mother, who smiled peacefully next to him. My father died after several years of illness. But even after my father's death, I could always see my father next to my mother, who lived modestly, to listen to my worries about my husband's words and actions. I can't believe my mother might be gone soon. I was sitting in the passenger seat, praying for her to hang on. When we arrived at her hospital room, my uncle and some other relatives were there. According to what I heard, my mother suddenly woke up in the middle of the night with chest pains. Unable to decide whether to call an ambulance or not, she called my uncle. She finally called an ambulance after my uncle strongly advised her to do so. My uncle, who lived nearby, immediately went to my mother's house. He also accompanied my mother to the emergency room. He called me as soon as he found out where they were taking her. I can never thank my uncle enough. My mother, lying in bed, was already unconscious. I could not speak to her, but I called out to her. The doctor who examined my mother told me that it would be a while before she would be in a critical situation again. My relatives and I called out to her and encouraged her. Then, we all started talking about arrangements that would need to be made. Suddenly, I heard a voice complaining. "Huh, it's finally over. You called me up in the middle of the night, and it wasted my time. Hey, let's go home." It was my husband's voice. He was sitting in a chair in the corner of the room, showing his frustration. I was so preoccupied with my mother that I forgot he was there. "Go ahead. Please go home without me. Although my mother is not conscious, it is possible that she can hear my husband's voice. If he keeps saying any more nasty words, I want him to get the hell out of there." Then my husband sighed, exaggeratedly, and said, "Huh, she made me waste my time for what? She doesn't even have much money to leave. Well, she was a useless old hag until the very end, wasn't she?" After he left, everyone was concerned and worried about me. I took a deep breath, calmed down, and told them, "Thanks. I'm all right. Don't worry. I've decided to divorce him." I returned home just as my husband left for work, and I immediately packed a box of clothes for immediate needs. I made a delivery to my uncle's house and left home with my personal belongings. To tell the truth, I had been secretly planning to divorce my husband when he reached retirement age in a few years. But my husband's comment at the hospital made me decide to accelerate the schedule. I can't live under the same roof as a person who insults my mother like that. I took a room at a business hotel for the time being. Then, I contacted the lawyer I had been consulting for some time. That night, I received a call on my cell phone from my husband. "Hey, why aren't you home? Your mom's still in the hospital, right? You don't have to take care of her, do you? I mean, the funeral's not even here yet, is it? Why don't you come home and cook dinner?" "Please leave me alone. I won't come home anymore. Victor, I'm divorcing you." Hearing that, my husband snickered. "Huh? If you can do it, do it. You're just a housewife with a part-time job." And he hung up the phone. A few days later, however, he called again. He was a completely different man. "What is this? What are these divorce papers and alimony demands?" His voice was filled with impatience. Contrary to my husband, I was calm. "I told you. I said I will divorce you. And the alimony is justified for the mental anguish I've suffered from you." "What? What are you talking about?" "I've been through those horrible things you've ever said to me. I documented it in my diary and on my blog. My lawyer said that would be good evidence." "What? Evidence? I guess he had no idea that I was working toward a divorce behind his back. Anyway, any further communications about the divorce would have to come through the lawyer. That was all I said and hung up the phone. A short time later, my husband and I finalized the divorce. Our savings of $200,000 will be divided among us. But his share was equal to the amount of alimony for the harassment. So we agreed that I would get all the savings. Of course, my husband did not accept these terms from the beginning.
There is no such thing as a wife's share. I earned it. If you take over your useless mother's house, it's mine too.
The lawyer calmly explained the situation each time to my husband.
If we have to go to mediation or court, it will cost a lot of money. Is that what you want?
By hinting about the money, my lawyer silenced my husband. When everything was finally settled, he said,
You took all my money, you bitch.
Are you alright? The lawyer looked at me with a bitter face and said he was concerned about me. But it didn't hurt me at all. My husband's words sounded like the howl of the loser. Less than 2 months after the divorce was finalized, my mother took her last breath. I served as a chief mourner with the help of my relatives. A short time later, I received a call from my uncle and his wife. They wanted to see me as soon as possible. I was a little nervous and went to the restaurant when we were meeting. Once we seated, my uncle got right down to business.
Actually, I got a call from Victor wanting to borrow money. I knew about your divorce and how it happened. So if I had picked up the phone, I would have immediately yelled at him and hung up. But instead of me, my wife picked up the phone.
Yes, I was the one who talked to Victor. I knew what was going on with you and Victor. Also, I had heard about his outburst in the hospital room, you know? So I had no intention of lending him money to begin with. But I was curious about what he had to say. I pretended to be sympathetic and asked him why he didn't have the money, pretending to be fooled. Great job, Auntie. But seriously, why? Why does he need money? I wondered. Sure, I got the couple's savings after the divorce, but my ex-husband has a job, so he should be getting paid all right. And you know, he gambled away his paycheck. Whenever he ran short of money, he would borrow money from consumer credit companies. Eventually, he ran out of money and the credit companies garnished his salary. And when his boss found out that he was in debt, Victor took early retirement. Whoa, what a mess. But didn't he receive severance pay even though he retired early? Well, what is it? I guess it's called an advanced payment system, isn't it? It was added to his salary and bonus a long time ago. Moreover, the severance pay he received in advance was based on the amount he would have received if he worked until retirement. But Victor retired early, so he had to pay the difference when he quit. He couldn't borrow any more money from consumer loans, and he can't find a job. So that was the reason for his financial trouble. I didn't know he was taking advantage of the advance payment plan. I vaguely remember that he stopped showing me his pay stubs at some point. I'm sure that was when he started using that advanced payment system. So, after listening to what he had to say, I said to him, "Oh my gosh, let me talk to my husband about it," and hung up the phone, you know? My aunt laughed like she was entertained. Later, I found out that my ex-husband had called not only my uncle, but also all my relatives and asked them to lend him money. How could any of my relatives lend money to him? Even the people who came to the wake and the farewell ceremony knew about his outbursts at the hospital. I have no sympathy for my ex-husband. I guess he ran out of people to turn to. One day, an unknown number called my cell phone.
Hey, it's been a while. How's things?
That was my ex-husband. A voice like I'd never heard when we were married. I got goosebumps from the sound of his sticky voice.
I went to see your mom's house. They're doing construction. Are you going to live in it after the renovation?
No, I'm renting it out. To tell you the truth, I would have lived there myself, but my ex-husband knew where it was, and I thought it would be dangerous, so I decided not to. I don't even want to give him the whole backstory.
Then where do you live now?
I would never tell you. Well, it's a condo with a concierge at the entrance where you can't just walk in.
What? A condo?
My ex-husband is speechless with surprise. No wonder. I inherited a fortune from my mother that was way out of proportion to the alimony I received. The story goes back to when my father passed away a few years ago. He was a tax accountant, and during his illness, he asked a colleague in his profession to take care of my mother and my inheritance. I was already concerned about my ex-husband's money management when my father died. So, I had offered to disinherit. My mother inherited my father's huge estate without my ex-husband's knowledge. Back then, when my ex-husband asked about my father's inheritance, I lied to him. I told him that my father's inheritance was negative because of the mortgage on the house, so I renounced it. My ex-husband seemed to be easily conceived and didn't ask me about the inheritance anymore. And now I have inherited everything my father left from my mother. Even if my ex-husband tried to touch it, it's safe because we are divorced. My mother was a modest woman who liked to wear a simple, high-quality cloth that lasted a long time. That's why I think my ex-husband assumed that my mother was poor. He had no idea of my intentions or where the money came from. I am not going to tell him.
If you can afford a condo, why don't you lend me some money? Right, Sylvia? Please. We even had a child together.
The only thing I'm grateful for is that I met Melody. But that's all. You left me to raise her alone. You've always looked down on me. And the time we spent together as a couple was just unbearable. Do you really think I'd help you?
Well, let's let bygones be bygones and get back together again.
Absolutely not. Besides, you are a full-time employee, right? You get paid well, right? Unlike a part-timer like me. And if you work for a few more years, you'll get a retirement bonus, right?
What?
What? Anything wrong? You're getting a retirement bonus, right? You'd better use it wisely. Well then, goodbye. I finished what I wanted to say and hung up the phone. I pretended I didn't know about his financial crisis. I felt ashamed of myself that I used to be married to that guy. I set the number he called to block all incoming calls. One day, about 6 months later, my daughter Melody came to stay with me. Mom, I love your new place. I wish I could live in a house like this someday, she said as she looked around my room, which was a little too big for a one-person house. Melody, your place is nice too. You said you like it, didn't you? That's true, but I can't afford this kind of room with my salary. Well, it's only my first year though. She takes a sip of her after-dinner coffee and smiles wryly. Seeing her smile makes me feel peaceful inside. My ex-husband's rarely mentioned between us. Mom? Actually, there is someone I'd like you to meet. Oh, really? You have a boyfriend? What's he like? Well, don't laugh, but he's a tax attorney. What? A tax attorney? Yeah. Can you believe? And there is more. One day, I found a book on his bookshelf, and it was the one Grandpa wrote. I thought it was fate, Whoa, Melody. What a nice coincidence. Grandpa must be very happy. My daughter smiles shyly. I look forward to the day when I see her future husband standing next to her with a gentle smile.
My husband was hospitalized after a fire at his mistress's house, and his affair partner was someone I never expected.
I was coming home after work when I received a call on my cell phone. I answered the phone, and it was the police on the other end. I was told my husband had been injured in a fire. I was puzzled. My husband said he had a meeting with someone from work today. A fire? Where? It couldn't have been at home, could it? With that in mind, I rushed home and found the house safe and sound. I was relieved, but there was no time to calm down. I rushed to pick up my sons and left them with my friend. When I entered the hospital room, my husband was sleeping. His burns didn't look too bad for a fire. His doctor told me that it would heal in a few weeks. They said it was the broken bones that were the worst. My husband jumped from the second floor to escape the fire. The impact fractured his spinal cord, and there is a possibility that he will be permanently injured. After the doctor's explanation, I was on my way back to the hospital room. Then the nurse approached me. Oh, about his friend? She had made it to the next room. His friend? She? What do you mean? I was puzzled and asked the nurse who that woman was. She said that the person and my husband were in the same fire, and they were brought together. I asked my husband, Sean, where did the fire happen? Sorry. That's work-related, so I can't tell you. I'd rather you go home and bring me a change of clothes. Huh? Why? Why? You're my wife. You're supposed to take care of me. I don't give a damn about it. You never take care of me or the kids, even when we're very sick. Don't expect me to take care of you. While my husband was talking about this kind of nonsense, the door to the hospital room opened. I was a little confused when someone I knew walked in. My name is Jane. My husband Sean and I have 2 sons, aged 3 and 5. I am 34 years old and have been working for the company I joined when I was 22 years old. My husband used to work for an IT company, but left about a year ago. He wanted to work in a more modern way. He left the company without consulting me, and we argued. I blamed him more for not consulting me about the income than for the fact that we are a family. He just told me not to worry, and that our income would increase. After he left the company, he started freelancing from home. At first, it seems to be going well, but then he started slacking off. He would stay up late at night
playing video games in his workroom. When I would ask him when he was working, he always had no answer. I can't tell you about my job, even if it's a family member, as there are confidentiality issues. He just said that and wouldn't talk to me. In the beginning, his income was enough, but it has been dropping steadily. In the last 6 months, he only brings in about $1,000 a month. My husband is home at all time, but he does neither housework nor takes care of our sons. On the contrary, when kids caught a cold, he stayed out for a few days because he didn't want to catch a cold. When I got sick, I asked my husband to take care of our sons so I can go to the hospital. But he replied, "Why don't you just take the kids to the hospital?" and locked himself in his workroom. No income, no housework, no childcare. My husband doesn't even care about us. More than anything, I don't think he is a good father to the kids. So I thought about getting a divorce. However, my days are so busy that I can't prepare for the divorce yet. I was spending my days in a fog like that. Then, my husband, who was home most of the time, started staying out a lot, saying he had to run some errands. And he started carrying his cell phone with him at all times. I immediately noticed the change in my husband and suspected he was cheating on me. In the past, I would have been shocked if he was cheating on me. But at that time, I was hoping that he was cheating on me and that I would be able to get a divorce favorably. I tried to gather evidence of the affair, but my husband would not let go of his cell phone. I decided that it would be difficult to get evidence from his cell phone, so I gave up. So I thought about hiring a detective to prove it. But we have very little savings because we have been living on my income almost exclusively. I was wondering how to get evidence of the affair every day. I was so stressed out. Then came a turning point for me. I was coming home after work when I received a call from my cell phone. I answered the phone, and the person on the other end was the police, telling me that my husband had been injured in a fire. My husband said he had a meeting with someone from work today, but a fire? Where? It could have been at home, could it? With that in mind, I rushed home and found the house was safe and sound. I was relieved, but there was no time to calm down. I rushed to pick up my sons and left them with my friend. I went to the hospital and entered the room where my husband was sleeping. His burns didn't look too bad for a fire. While I was in a daze, a nurse came in. She said that the doctor would explain everything, and I left the room. The doctor said that my husband had a few burns, but they should heal in a few weeks. The worst part is the broken bones. He jumped down from the second floor to escape the fire. The doctor said that the impact fractured his spinal cord and that there was a possibility that he would be permanently injured. When I was told that, my first thought was, shoot, I should have divorced him sooner. I know I sound like a cold person, but I couldn't even think about taking care of my husband. After the doctor's explanation, I was on my way back to the hospital room. Then, the nurse approached me. "Oh, about his friend? She admitted to the next room." "His friend? She? Oh, could she be? Can you tell me who it is, please?" I asked the nurse. "She was in the same fire as your husband. She was brought in with him." "Could she be the woman my husband was having an affair with?" I rushed back to the hospital room. My husband was already awake. "Sean, where did the fire happen?"
Sorry. That's work related, so I can't tell you."
I was convinced. By the way, my husband was stammering that the fire broke out while he was meeting the woman he was having an affair with.
I'd rather you go home and get a change of clothes, would ya?
Huh? Why?
Why? You're my wife. You're supposed to take care of me.
I don't give a damn about it. You never take care of me or the kids, even when we're very sick. Don't expect me to take care of you. While my husband was talking about this kind of nonsense, the door to the hospital room opened. The man who came in was Mr. Howard, the husband of my mom friend, Amanda. I was a little confused to see someone I knew come in. It seemed Mr. Howard had seen me entering the hospital room and came to greet me. Yes, it was Amanda, one of my mom friends, who was admitted to the next hospital room. I looked at my husband in surprise, and his face turned completely pale. He looked away from me. So, that's what it is. My husband was having an affair with Amanda. I was speechless. Amanda was a good friend of mine ever since our kids started to go to the same kindergarten. She even came to our house with her kids. I introduced her to my husband at the time. So my husband must have known that she was my friend. I told Amanda that my husband had been cold lately and that I suspected him of cheating on me. She had a serious look on her face, nodding her head and listening to me. What the hell was she thinking? Was she going to figure out how much I knew about the affair? I suppressed my desire to beat my husband and Amanda up and question them right there. Instead, I greeted Mr. Howard. You must be Amanda's husband, right? Your wife has always been a great friend to me.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm a little confused here.
I just heard that your wife and my husband were in the same fire. My husband won't tell me where the fire happened, and... Do you know anything about this? I asked Mr. Howard. Then he glanced at my husband and said to me,
So, your husband was also in the fire, right? My apology. The fire happened in my house.
What? Really? Was that your house? I had no idea my husband was there. When I looked back at my husband, he hid under the covers.
Well, Jane, I think I need to talk to you. Do you have a few minutes?
Yes, I was going to ask you the same. I had a pretty good idea of what Mr. Howard was going to talk about. We went to a cafe near the hospital. He told me that he was gathering evidence. One day, he had looked inside Amanda's cell phone and found something. There was a picture of her and my husband, looking like they were in love. Mr. Howard said that he had also asked the private detective to keep an eye on Amanda and collect further photos of the affair. I also told Mr. Howard that I had suspected that my husband was cheating on me for a long time, and I had no idea who his affair partner was. When I told Mr. Howard that I was going to divorce my husband, he agreed to help me. 2 days later, Mr. Howard and I headed for the hospital together. My husband and Amanda were still in the next room to each other. But Amanda came to my husband's hospital room as if she thought nothing had been discovered. Thank God, Amanda! You look well. I came to see you the day before yesterday, but you were on the bed rest, so I couldn't talk to you. How do you feel? Are you alright? Yes, I'm okay. I broke my shoulder, so I have to rest for a while though. Yeah, that's tough. I hope it heals quickly. You'll need money from now on, right? Huh? Well, yeah. The kids are still small, so... That's right. You have to pay child support, right?
Get well soon, Amanda. Good luck with the job hunting, too. Amanda didn't know what I was talking about and was confused. Hey, what are you talking about? I hope you brought my change of clothes, did you?
Of course, I didn't.
What? You're really useless. Didn't I tell you the other day I wouldn't take care of you anymore? I brought you this today.
Saying that, I took the divorce papers out of my bag.
Huh? Are you divorcing me? Are you abandoning your husband because I might be permanently injured?
No, it wasn't because of the injury. The day you were taken to the hospital, you said you had a business meeting.
Then, why were you at Amanda's house? That's because, well, you know, I only didn't tell you. But Amanda is one of my business associates. We were discussing things at their house, and the fire happened. That's all.
Are you that stupid that kind of excuse would work? I already know about the relationship between you and Amanda. No matter how many excuses you make, you'll just look ridiculous. My husband became upset and started to talk back at me.
Shut your mouth. Don't make a fuss over just one affair. Besides, what are you going to do after the divorce? Can you raise 2 kids by yourself?
Of course I can, and I will. I've been raising them by myself all this time. You've never been there.
What? I've been playing with them.
Yeah. Maybe a few hours every few months. I'm sure the neighborhood elementary school kids play with them more than you.
But what about the money? You need my income, right? Or are you going to put our kids through a tough situation?
Well, we'll be totally fine. Life will be much easier without you. Because I won't have any expenses to spend on you.
But I have this injury, you know. So if it gets out that you left your husband who needs help, you're gonna ruin your reputation. Even if you're going to divorce me, you might as well do it after I'm fully recovered.
No. I can't. I can't wait any longer. If anyone should take care of you, you have your girlfriend, haven't you? My husband looked at Amanda. After thinking for a moment, he seemed convinced.
If you insist, I understand. I don't need a bitch like you anymore. I'll divorce you then. Hand me the documents.
My husband reached out to grab the divorce papers. Stop it! I moved the papers away from him so he wouldn't take them.
What? You said you want a divorce.
We haven't discussed alimony and child support yet.
Are you crazy? Are you gonna take money from an injured man? I need money for hospital bills, physical therapy.
Well, good luck with your physical therapy. 'Cause you need to make some money and pay for the alimony. You don't even have any savings, remember?
What? You don't have any savings?
Amanda's voice came out in surprise. In response to my words, my husband stared at me with a look of disbelief on his face.
You told me you had money. You said you were freelancing, so you were making a lot of money.
Well, now I just spend it as soon as it comes in. Money accumulates in no time.
My husband was desperately trying to make excuses. In reality, his current income is less than $1,000 a month. I could have told Amanda right there, but I didn't want to get into their fight, so I kept quiet. Anyway, my husband agreed to divorce me. I've already decided on a lawyer to consult regarding alimony for the affair. I will ask the lawyer to send the content certified letter later. With me saying that, Mr. Howard and I left the hospital room. As soon as I got home, I prepared to move out. I went to thank my friend for taking care of my kids. I also told her that I was divorcing my husband because he had been unfaithful to me and that I was planning to move out. I didn't directly tell her that my husband's affair partner was Amanda. Several people already knew that my husband was in a fire at Amanda's house. Even if I hadn't told them, word would have spread. Later, as planned, I hired a lawyer and we proceeded with the divorce. Alimony and child support was hard to come by. At first, my husband said, "I'm a freelancer, so I can work in bed even when I'm injured. I'm going to work all day because I have time. Maybe I'll make over 100 grand a year. Even if I get rich, I'm not going to take you back." So, I had high hopes that my husband would pay me alimony and child support. But it seems my hopes of 100 grand were dashed sooner than I imagined. Rather, he started to refuse to pay alimony and child support. From asking for an extension of the payment deadline to ask me to reduce the amount. Finally, he called me directly. "Don't you think $50,000 for alimony was too much? I think $5,000 is about right. I'm not saying that I can't make money, you know. If you want money so bad, tell it to the people who never offered me a job." "I've told you 1,000 times. You need to talk to my lawyer about the alimony. Don't call me again." With that, I hung up the phone. And then the lawyer told me, my husband, that if the discussion goes on too long, we were going to divorce settlement. My husband was freaked out and accepted my terms. Things went smoothly from there. The divorce was finalized with alimony and child support, paid in one lump sum. The Howards also divorced, and Amanda didn't get custody of the children. After my sons and I moved closer to my parents' home, I heard from a mom friend that my ex-husband and Amanda remarried. Seems like they were living in the house where the fire happened. I heard that my ex-husband walks with a cane, and Amanda had shaggy hair and always looks gloomy. They say that the two look like an old couple, even though they were both still in their 30s. My ex-husband got into debt for alimony and child support. Amanda is owed child support for her 3 children. The two of them together must be in quite a bit of debt. But I don't feel sorry for them, because I reduced his bill to my husband quite a bit on the condition of a lump sum payment. I am happy to finally leave my ex-husband. But I am sorry for my 2 sons that they have to leave their father and friends so suddenly. At first, they were confused by the new place. But now, they have made friends with the neighborhood kids and seems to be enjoying themselves. On holidays, my parents come to see them and play with them. For the first time in a long time, I have some alone time. I have more time, money, and energy than I did when I was with my ex-husband. Thanks to that, I can give more love to my boys than I ever did before. Thank you for watching till the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video.